G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/ChoosingBeggars video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody ChoosingBeggars. I'll pay you for your work, but nowhere near what we agreed on. Don't know if this should be here, but I don't think it fits into any of the other communities that I follow. Shouldn't be any glaring spelling errors, but if there are any, feel free to roast. Last year, during my nursing course at uni, I worked part-time with my dad and brother-in-law, building and repairing refrigerated trucks on the weekend. Mobile family-run business, so it's just us three. And dad works as a manager of a business that does the same during the weekdays. We provide the service that lets us go at a time or place more convenient for our clients, which these companies don't do, and the less time that the truck is not roadworthy is better for the clients. Dad gets a call from a potential client, asking him for a quote on a couple of doors that needed to be replaced on the back of his truck. Now for anyone that doesn't know, the doors are made out of fiberglass and filled with XPS. It's like styrofoam, only much denser. These kinds of doors are pricey. I'm not saying a few hundred, a few thousand for a set of doors is closer to the normal. So we get the doors quoted, and a few other small things that needed repairing. Comes up to about $1,500. We know a guy, including labor costs, time spent actually working on the damn truck, and fuel, because dad likes using his ute to carry all the tools that we'll need to actually do everything we need to. We also had to strap those doors onto the ute and drive to his place, because he doesn't have a place that he can store the truck, and we'd need power to fix everything. These doors are massive. Think one of those massive shipping container doors, only not made of metal. Now, $1,500 is actually a very reasonable price for what the guy is asking, because if he went to a company that specializes in this kind of thing, like the one that my dad works at, he would be paying upwards of $7,000 to $8,000 just for the doors alone, and he wouldn't have his truck for at least a month. When dad quoted the price to him, he said that was the best price he could offer, as it really was the lowest he could go, before working at a loss. The guy agreed on the price and set up a date, time and place for us to work. We rock up when he says to and get to work. Doors get replaced, some of the floors get welded down, because when you drive a forklift over metal, it tends to warp a little, forcing parts of the floor down and other parts to stick up. Hammer those down and weld them so they don't lift again. Also some superficial damage on the outside of the truck, but that wasn't such a big deal. Fill it with some gap filler, let it dry and paint it over. Basically, we get the truck back to a good condition after a few hours, and then dad asks the guy about payment. I should note that the guy planned on giving us cash, because it was easier for him. We also take a few cash in hand jobs for clients that we probably won't be getting multiple jobs from. Also Indian, so cash is usually what works. I'm actually Australian, born Fiji Indian, so I'm not being racist when I specify that he's Indian. Just trying to say that we get why he pays in cash. The moment dad asks about being paid, the guy clams up, tells us he doesn't have the amount, and asks us to do it cheaper. Now, I did specify that we already heavily discounted the price for this guy. What we're asking for is quite literally the bottom line. We discuss what he thinks is reasonable, and his counter offer is a measly $450. Yeah, not uncommon for tradies in Australia, not gonna lie, they get ripped off all the time. We go at this for about half an hour before dad folds and takes the $450, because we understand that he won't change his mind. Old Indian men are notoriously stubborn, as well as cheap as hell. He pees off with his truck, and dad ended up tearing a new one into the guy that gave him our number. He's actually a nice guy, and we get regular work from him, as he manages a fleet of trucks and has a bunch of crabby drivers. Thankfully, this guy actually has a sense of shame and pays us the difference, and promptly cuts the cheap guy out of his life. If you got to here, thanks for reading. Why not just remove the doors and leave? I actually suggested it, but dad is not that kind of person. Plus, it would have taken a lot of time, and he was very eager to leave once he paid us. Your dad didn't ask someone for some kind of down payment? I ask for a 50% non-refundable down payment, and I don't even have to buy anything. Dad's a little too honest. Down payments have nothing to do with being honest or not. When I provide aerial photography, I found out the hard way that the down payment makes sure someone doesn't try to lowball you or steal the pictures. This guy got our number from someone we know as trustworthy. Dad made the assumption that this guy was as well, so didn't ask for the down payment. Dad rarely asks for one anyway from our clients, so he didn't think to this time either. Like I said, he's a little too honest. Yeah, that's understandable. Sucks, but when someone you trust brings you a customer, that customer automatically receives a decent amount of trust. Hate to be the your guy, he put his name on the line for that jerk. Don't know what that the your guy means, but okay. And our next post is by user Fell Into a Dark Hole. Haven't we all? Titled, Aunt tells me I have to give her my eyeshadow collection because she works harder than me, so deserves it more. So I recently got into makeup, mainly eyeshadow. I have some minimal art talent that lends itself to colourful looks. The palettes I have are expensive. They're from JSC, but they are great quality, and a key point is that they were gifts. I have 5 palettes, 3 were from Christmas gifts, and 2 were from early birthday gifts. You can tell I don't like seeing gifts, it just doesn't work in my mouth. So my auntie, married to my mum's youngest brother, recently became a makeup artist. Her 5th job after doing nails, hair, massage, and nannying. That's a lot of jobs, good on her. She has a clean but basic style of makeup and was unpracticed and unwilling to work with more colours at first. She did not get many clients because her work was reviewed as basic, dull, ordinary, and she was rigid, inflexible, and unwilling to provide exactly what the clients wanted. This resulted in her having to work twice as hard for barely any money. She came over wanting mum's advice on how to improve, and was told to offer more colourful looks to add variety. She claimed to have no idea what colourful palettes were good quality, so mum had me show her one of my favourites. It's red themed. She remarked that it was good quality, felt nice, seemed usable, and that she would happily use it on clients. She then proceeded to close it, stand up, and attempt to take it to her car. Mum stopped her before she could reach the door and asked what she thought she was doing. Her response, I thought it would be a good idea to borrow this one to see if I could really use it. Mum got my palette back and auntie left in a huff after being told off for not asking, and then being told no when she asked a minute later. 2 days later, auntie begins to text me. M is me, A is aunt. Auntie's like, I really liked that eyeshadow palette you showed me the other day. So do I. It's great to use and the colours worked great for my complexion. Would it be possible for me to have it? I need more colour to work with and have no money to spare. I know you didn't pay for it, so it wouldn't make much of a difference for you to give it to me. Just don't tell your mum. Look, I'm not doing that. I wanted it for ages and got it as a gift from mum. I'm not just gonna give it away. Plus, it was expensive for mum to get it, so I certainly can't let it go for free or without telling her. Just agree, you spoiled brat. I need this to keep my business going. I have to work hours a day to keep your cousins fed and clothed, so the least you can do is help me out, because you certainly don't work as hard as me. I'm not giving away a gift, and I'm not the one who has 4 kids but can't keep a stable job. I also know you're not that desperate because uncle has a well-paying job, so please just leave me alone. Fine, brat. See if we ever help your ungrateful ass again after this. It's not my fault I keep losing jobs when people like you refuse to give a hardworking mum any help. Goodbye forever. She called me the next day to ask me to babysit her kids for the day while she went shopping. She came back and started complaining loudly about how hard it is to get decent eyeshadow when no one is willing to help you get started. I just stood up and went to my room. God, what a piece of work. Actually screw people like that. Anyway guys, on to our next story by Samuel Jin. Choosing beggar overstays their welcome, lies about money, and disrespects and complains about the favors they've been given. In the same vein of the post before about travel influencers worried they won't get free stuff anymore, I have a story that involves OnlyFans, and letting someone crash on my spare couch. It's a bit of a rant from a few weeks ago. For the people that aren't familiar with OnlyFans, it's basically a subscription site where you subscribe to someone's account for a monthly fee or whatever. and you get access to their content, which is almost always homemade porn and nudes. It's become super popular in the past year or so, to where I know several people, from actual close friends to people I met once at like a party or something, and they're all in the 18 to 30-year-old range. Because of how popular it is from influencers that advertise them all the time on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, it's a super saturated market. Most people just have an old stockpile of nudes, so they create an account, they do really well with the first month or so, then people unsubscribe, because it's not worth paying $30 a month for try-hard mirror pics. Even if you're doing well, you can probably only expect to make it your job for a year or so. The smart people know not to quit their job and not to spend your money on photography gear and outfits, expecting to wake up every afternoon with a couple hundred more in your account. These expectations are important later. Anyway, the setup. So there's someone I know that seems to be constantly having a rough time. Red flag, I know. They moved to another state, and their roommate, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that it was only partially their fault, lied to the landlord about her living there, so she had to move back to the state on a few days' notice. I said that they could crash for a week or two, which I said on the phone and reiterated on Facebook Messenger, because they said they could easily transfer to another store in the state because that's how she had a job in the other state. A week or two and they have a job. Not bad, right? Then the problems start. In being there for a week, she had yet to attempt to transfer to a new store. She didn't have a car and refused to learn the bus routes. But I dropped off at the light rail station a few times. I was in the middle of getting my car fixed, so I didn't really trust driving it till it was safer. I had to replace the rotors and the brake pads that started grinding because it wasn't serviced like it said it was 15,000 kilometers ago when I got it. So I wasn't really in a position to be chauffeur, and I had made it clear that it wasn't going to happen, and you know, for not driving, there are options like Lyft, which will take you to job interviews for free, or your friends could pick you up to go to the mall, where she spent money she said she didn't have for Uber or Lyft. The escalation / the choosing peg apart. I get back, and she had started taking stuff out of my closets to put in bins to put her clothes on the hangers. There's a red flag. She didn't have a closet in the downstairs living room to put her clothes in, that were brought in trash bags, so that must mean that the full closet is up for grabs. Then, in a few sentences, a few more red flags come out. Well, if I'm living here, I need to unpack, and my friend is coming over later. That I correct her in that, you don't need to unpack, especially if that means tossing my stuff out, and it's not okay for you to invite people over without asking, which she got an attitude about. A few days later, I ask if she wants to tag along, because I'm meeting a few friends for lunch. I told her when we were leaving because they were already at the bar, and it takes her another 40 minutes after I said when we were going to leave. There, I talked to my friends about how I'd been planning to move out in a month or two. There she brags about how she made money on her OnlyFans, and was able to spend like $200 on a Valentine's Day gift. That was the person who was her friend coming over later. On the way back, she gets upset that I didn't tell her that I planned on moving out in 6 to 8 weeks, which shouldn't have any effect on her week or two that she was already on the second week of. And she couldn't stop bragging about making money on her OnlyFans, and that she planned on not transferring to another store, and what am I supposed to do? The room she said she was able to move into by now won't be open for like a month. Apparently, her not keeping up to any of the terms I laid out before, 1 to 2 weeks. You said you have a job lined up. You're crashing on the couch. I also reminded her about the not inviting people over without asking, and saying, this person is coming over later. Isn't asking. It's saying, are you going to make me cancel something that I overstepped my bounds for? I still said it was fine if you're wanting someone to pick you up and hang out at their house that they live at. And because she couldn't respect that bound, she is not allowed to have someone over unless they're helping her move out. She made a post on Facebook about needing to find a new place to live ASAP, because we're fighting and being hostile, and a link to her OnlyFans if anyone wanted to help her out with money, because me reminding her that I'm doing her a favor that she's not respecting means that I'm being hostile. And it was set so that I wasn't able to see the post, but she forgot that we have like 100 mutual friends that know I'm doing her a favor. So I get a screenshot from a friend asking, "Isn't this the person that's crashing on your couch? Why is she saying she lives there?" Anyway, the conclusion. On a weekend, I was going to my parents to help them unpack and hang mirrors/TVs and such in a new house. She knew this because I told her that I couldn't drive her, since I was sure that she would ask that on a weekend. So she knew I wouldn't be at the house all day and possibly till the next morning. What does she do? She invites the dude over. She films some stuff with him, and then she posts her OnlyFans account on her profile again, asking for money while also commenting elsewhere that she's making money from her other stuff. So I'm assuming nothing happened the 24 hours that I was gone, and she was bragging to me that she was making money on the site. A few days later, she posted a screen grab on Instagram, and she apparently wasn't smart enough to think I wouldn't recognize my downstairs couch, and say, "Check out my new post from Saturday." So she was out at a concert when I saw this, so I send her a message on Facebook saying that her stuff is out on the curb in trash bags. Knock when you get back so I can get your cat in his carrier outside. She seemed confused, and I explained to her why. She was already supposed to be gone. She invited someone over after being told that she would be kicked out for inviting someone over without asking, let alone film homemade porn with someone that I don't know in my house, and then be stupid or inconsiderate enough to advertise it while lying the whole time about not having any money. She was asking where she was supposed to go, and I told her that she could stay at that dude's house, which apparently wasn't an option. So I reminded her that for how much money she bragged about making off of the thing she filmed, and that should be able to get her an Uber and at least a week of ones of several motels around. She then said she already spent too much money on the concert and couldn't afford to stay that long at a motel. I haven't talked to her since handing off her cat and telling her maybe if someone's doing you a favor, don't overstep, lie, and complain in such a largely inappropriate and irresponsible way. Hope I didn't read that one too scuffed. I felt like I was going up and down and all around the place too much, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the reading for that one. I've got nothing but respect for sex workers, and if you're making OnlyFans, that's completely acceptable. Just don't do what she's doing in this situation. That's disgusting behavior. Anyway, our next story was posted by user SigmundBlake, titled, "Available Jobs Not Good for His Chi." Edit, to keep this as anonymous as possible, I will be a bit vague on details. So not long ago, I decided to restart my life and get a house to go with the promotion at my current job, which I still have, finally out of retail. I needed to get my life back on track, and this promotion was just the ticket, but I decided to rent a home rather than buy. Cost and effort-wise, this ended up being a bit more involved than I initially thought, so I decided to seek roommates to help mitigate the costs. A friend of mine, who we shall call Gary, asked if he could be one of my roommates. Gary was a good friend who was very intelligent, studying in a very competitive field, but was convinced his skills and education would put him ahead of the pack. Gary had grants that could help pay for housing, and he convinced me he would get a highly paid job straight out of college in a few months. Silly me, I believed him despite warnings from my family and friends. Gary brought on other roommates to help even the rent, and they are another story. But let's focus on Gary. Gary was the type who had been told how special he was his whole life, and how he would get a job out of college and be on top of the world. And look, I don't blame Gary for this per se, so much as his parents, but it gave him an air of superiority that he would sometimes give off when talking about his field. Gary really was a highly intelligent and fun guy to be with, but his head often alternated between being up in the clouds or far up his posterior. Gary was also not the smartest of spenders or most reliable when it came to help pay the rent. He once complained about having to ration his funds, but went out to buy a $300 smartwatch and a $2,000 gaming PC to help with his field, since using the college smart computers was a drain on his time and were not up to his standards. This led him to taking payday loans, and later pawning the same watch. I tried explaining it would be better if he bought a cheaper computer and used a simple watch, or could have my old Samsung smartwatch, but that just wasn't good enough for Gary. Also, Gary would often borrow things or eat my food, then either put them back without cleaning or replace it with a generic item. One big example were my Canadian dry ginger ale 2 liters. It's one of my favorite drinks, and I often stockpile them when they're on sale. I made it clear to my housemates not to drink them, but Gary thought that it was okay to drink them and then replace them with generic brands. Seems like a petty issue, but these were my one thing that I like to enjoy. And Gary never bought groceries unless you include the occasional box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. He always relied on me to get groceries and complained if the quality wasn't good enough. A few months in, we had to move out of the house. It just wasn't working. Another story for another time. And I decided to move into an apartment. Gary thought that he was coming with me, and I had to very politely tell him that was not going to happen. He was often late on payments, and I covered him and the other roommates on the utilities several times. I also covered the entire $2,400 deposit. The apartment I was moving into was a high-end that I still live in to this day, and the cost would have been too high for Gary, and I just didn't feel like spotting him the money anymore. I found a new roommate through work, who was amazing, and we had a great stay until he moved out of the state. Gary and his friends then spent the next several weeks harassing me, saying I left everyone out in the cold because I wouldn't allow him to stay for free in my new apartment. Oh, and those grants he was getting for living expenses? Those dried up after he graduated, and surprise, his education and portfolio didn't land him any jobs as the employers were not lined up as he thought they would. In short, Gary has no prospects, and I couldn't financially support him anymore. Gary was a great guy, but was just a burden I could not financially sustain any longer, so I had to cut him loose. Gary began couch surfing 1 week at a time. I would have offered a week or two, but my new property management company has very strict rules and enforcement on guests, and Gary tends to broadcast a lot more than he thinks, so that would place my new situation at risks. I tried helping Gary find a job, including one at my company, which was very hard work and not at all in his field of study. When I offered him a reference to apply and get in with my company, his next words I will never forget. You know, not working in my job field is not good for my chi, especially your company, but I'm glad you're able to accept such mediocrity. I don't think he meant this as an insult, but it sure rang as one. It was here that my now partner and I decided to cut Gary completely loose. We didn't talk a lot after that, but he moved back to his mediocre parents' home out of state, and then took me off his social media, where, last I hear, he's still trying to find a job in his field. I wish Gary the best of luck. I really do, but he really needs to get his head out of his ass. What did you guys think of that one? Gary sounds like a top-notch guy. No flies on that one, right? Bit of a stinky fella, Gary. Anyway guys, our second last post is by user AmyLikesT, titled, "My Entitled Sister Demands Dog Care and More." So, my older sister has been living with us for 3 months. She used to live with her best friend, but there was a fight and my mum drove her out to get her from LA, which is about an hour away from us. She half-heartedly looks for a job, gets one at a bridal shop, but only worked there half a shift. She went in sick with sinus issues and a cough, even though both me and my mum told her not to, because the cough might send people into a panic. When the state went on lockdown, she was officially let go. She came to us with her dog River, who was a sweetheart. Entitled sister got a friend to buy her a plane ticket to go see them. When she asked for a ride to the airport right away, I said no. I also told her she shouldn't be going and should save what little money that she had. Yes, her friend bought her a plane ticket, but she was no doubt going to spend money during the trip. I forgot what a manipulative leech she can be, because she said her friend was paying for everything during the trip. This was also before the lockdown, so an airport shuttle was still an option. Jump to yesterday, when she asks me how much money it will take to drive her. I flatly tell her, I don't want to take you, and she snottily replies, that isn't what I asked you. I asked how much I would have to pay for you to take me, as if turning it from a favor to a job would change my mind. I tell her $500, hoping to get my point across. For some reason, she thinks I'm being serious, and tells her friend who she's on the phone with that I'm being a bratty little extortionist. I stand my ground until she says she was kidding. Yeah, right. I have listened to at least 2 phone fights she has had with friends because her kidding around sounds dead serious. Not that any of this ended up mattering. My mom told her that if she insisted on traveling at this time, then when she came back, she would have to find somewhere to self-quarantine herself. She later complained to me how unreasonable our mother was being. Today she was taking a nap at 11 AM in the morning, and when she woke up, I let her know River needed to go out. She says, "So take him out." "No, he's your dog." "So? You heard him whining and didn't do anything about it." "Okay, next time I'll wake you up." She tries to go back to sleep, but River's whining gets to her. As she's putting on her shoes, she tells me I'm being a bit of a tramp. Now, this made me angry, which doesn't happen often. I say, look, don't order me to take care of your dog. And don't get mad if you do ask me and I say no. River is your dog. I get that you're sleepy, but then again, you are up past midnight on the phone. This led to us yelling, her telling me not to talk to her like that, me telling her to just not talk to me at all. She takes River out and comes back to restart the fight from a different angle, despite saying several times she doesn't want to fight. Each time I point out that she is still yelling when I already agreed to drop it. The fight ends when she has an epiphany and realizes she is picking a fight like she feels our mother does. I tell her, Mum doesn't do that with me because we don't fight like you guys do. I left her to hyperventilate over being like Mum and went back to my show. But I'm glad that I got my point across, that me helping out now and again with River is not a right. If she had not been feeling well, things would have been different, but I knew she was just tired from staying up late. Trust me, next time I will wake her spoiled ass up. My mum and I do so much for her, and it's like she doesn't care. Edit, last night she was sleeping. It was like 10 or 11 at night, and she had been asleep since 7. I think she sleeps so much out of boredom. But like I said I would earlier, I woke her up to take care of her dog. It took about half an hour because she would open her eyes, nod after being told about the dog, and then go back to sleep. She finally got up and took care of her doggo. I have never stood up to my sister. She was always a horrible bully when we were kids. She has been very careful to not ask me to take her dog out, just to watch him while she is in the bathroom, which is fine because I'm already settled in the living room. And our last post is by user SkellyIsKing, titled, "Gets free work from the Boy Scouts, then refuses to supply the pizza they promised." Okay, context time. This story is sort of a patchwork of many people's accounts, as I was not there for all of it, so some details may be hazy. I am in Boy Scouts and we commonly do service projects for places in the community for free. However, it is understood that the Scouts should get some pizza or something at around lunchtime to keep us all happy. We all arrive at around 11 AM to help stain fences for a horse place. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was fairly popular. We were told that we were going to get pizza at around 1 PM, and we were all working hard. The owner of the place comes out and watches us and would say crap like, "Make sure you do that one," and, "Oh, go back over there." And it was kind of annoying, but whatever. At 1:30, kids started to complain to the leaders about when lunch was happening, and they said that it would be soon. Our scout leader started talking with the owners, and it got pretty heated. We only know some of what was said because the owner would scream really loudly to make a point, but she said things like, "I thought it was free," "We are an important community landmark," and "Ungrateful brats." After about 20-ish minutes of our scout leaders and the owner arguing, our scout leader turned around to us and told us, "Stop where we are, get ready to leave." After we got packed up, our leader announced that we would get free pizza at the scout house if we showed up. Good for them. I mean, if you promise the scouts pizza, then don't do it. It makes sense to just stop the work, as they pretty much broke the agreement. The price of pizza is maybe $50 to feed the kids. The price to have fence stained by a company and not children volunteers would be upwards of $1,000, if not more, since it's probably a ton of fencing. So stupid. I'm glad you guys got those little ones their pizza. 50 bucks? We only need like 3 pies, and that's at most 36 bucks. I'm originally from CT, lol. Crap's expensive as hell out there, sadly. You can get like a large pizza and garlic bread for 36 bucks out there. It sucks. Heck, I didn't know pizza was so expensive out in the States, I thought it was cheap. Anyway guys, that's the end of our episode today. I'm rounding it out there. It's a lot of stories that I've covered today. I hope you enjoyed these ones. Hope you didn't get too mad at these choosing beggars. I know it can get a bit much for some people. As always, I want to know your comments down below. I hope you guys had a good one. I'll see you in the next episode. I'm going to continue to read out that thing from the Entitled Parents one. So, guys, I love you today, tomorrow, next week, and until I die. Now go to sleep and forget today and dream about tomorrow. I love you all. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.